Hey, it's Blister Guy. I'm leaving the house and I'm walking to work, and that should give me enough time for an episode of Concede.
Greetings.
Hello.
Greet.
My greeting.
Well met.
I greet you.
Greetings, traveler.
Greetings, friend.
The pleasure is mine.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 128 of Concede. My name is Ridiculous Hat. I am your host for the evening, and we have a whole bunch of wonderful people with us here today. First of all, from Karazhan, California, we've got the man himself, Mr. Bodicus. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, I am excited about tonight. We have some awesome guests and people and just new sets and everything. I'm excited.
Same. Yeah, this is going to be a pretty solid week right here. And who else do we have from the Maelstrom, Louisiana? It's Mr.
It's
Appa.
me.
It's Appa.
Hi.
How are
Welcome
you?
back.
Woo!
And our guest this week from the Frozen Throne, Northrend, Massachusetts, we've got our buddy Wickedwood. How's it going, man?
Long-time listener, first-time caller.
It's literally frozen there now, right? Isn't it?
It literally is. They plow all the snow onto my yard because we have like connected driveways. There is a mound of snow that is literally as tall as I am in our front yard, like obscuring our view, and it's kind of terrifying. And I am really done with the fact that it's always winter and never Christmas. So yeah. But I'm glad that at least this storm, the power held up, so I'm able to join you all, because that was not the case with last week's storm. So, yeah. But I am really excited to be here, and I'm happy to finally get to talk to you all at the same time, as opposed to individually.
You ready to make Bodicus real mad? Because I'm ready to make Bodicus real mad.
I live for this, actually. I live for going into Bodicus' stream and taunting him with my priestly ways, so I'm looking forward to being able to do it in real time now.
Yay.
Your priestly ways and your primordial drakes. Yeah. It's going to be a good time over here, but before we get going, let's talk about the outline of our show. We're going to start off by giving Steve an intro, as if anyone needs that at this point, but we'll do it anyways. Talk about our ladder placement, the news. There's some big news this week. A brief tournament recap, a brief explanations about Bodicus' favorite deck, and then we are really unlikely to have time to get to questions and emails, but hey, if we get there, we'll get there. Concede, before we go any further, it is supported in large part by you, the listener. If you'd like to find out how you can support us and receive rewards in return, head to patreon.com/coinconcede. And something that we're going to do literally right now, one of the patron rewards, is a monthly raffle for a $20 gift card in BattleNet for all patrons of the $5 level or more. So, I've got a virtual 56-sided die here that we're going to roll. If it gets Steve, that's going to be interesting. Let's see what happens. Drum roll, please. And the winner is Wasil. Wasil P, congratulations. $20 gift card for you. Very exciting. Thank you so much for being a patron. And now that the business part of the show is over, let's get right to saying hello to our lovely guest. Hey, Steve.
Hi.
How are you?
Is this a trick question? I don't know. It's like, what is my name? What is my quest? Is that I'm worried.
The only tricks here are in your control priest decks.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah, no, I'm good. I'm
What kind of good?
What?
What kind of good?
Wicked good. I'm always wicked good. That's my name. That's what I always am.
So,
Just like you're always ridiculous.
Yes.
Based on the first 10 minutes of this episode, I'm already starting to get less excited about it. It goes on.
Yeah, that's kind of our jam.
I mean, I'm excited because we're going to talk about mind control and Dragonfire Potion and Cabal Shadow Priest and all of everyone's favorite things.
I don't mean to digress, but how is it
I don't know
that
if the listeners can hear my eyes rolling as as much as they are right
Is
now.
there a way for me to edit in a video into an audio file? Can I do that?
I don't. I mean, if you are, you may as well get Rod literally like cursing me out in the middle of a UHL match because of Andrew playing Big Priest and just like breaking down and cursing my name randomly in the middle of the match. I wasn't even playing.
But that's kind of why you play Hearthstone, is for moments like that.
Yeah,
I watched that one unfold in real time, and it was great.
I just got a tweet like, Steve, I apologize for what I just did. I'm like, oh boy, I got to go back and watch this now because this ought to be good.
So before
Big
we
priest
get
I
any
could
further,
handle. This new priest, we'll get into it, but
so
my patience has been tried.
So this control priest is more trying than Big Priest for you?
Yes, significantly.
That leaves a big old question mark for me, sir.
In fairness, you were playing Shaman on ladder in 2018, so
Yeah, and I almost hit legend with it too. It was fantastic until all these.
Bro, I have not played a game of Shaman outside of Wild in like 3 months. There's a reason for that one.
well, before we get too far into the priest talk, and I know that that's a rabbit hole we're not going to escape from, Steve, tell us about who you are and plug your stuff for anyone that somehow is unfamiliar with your incredible notoriety in the scene.
Okay, well, so I'm, I do a solo podcast, Off Curve, at offcurve.com, which is me just kind of basically saying all the things that I've typed 3 times already in some Discord or another because I'm in too many Discords. So I just kind of record it on my way home from the train station. And it's usually about 20 to 30 minutes, just whatever. Sometimes I talk about a deck I'm playing. Sometimes I talk about strategy type stuff. Sometimes I just talk about how not to get tilted because that's something that seems to come up every once in a while. Who would guess? I've been podcasting for a lot longer than I've been doing Off Curve. I was on Relay FM up until very recently doing a game podcast called Isometric for a while, and then that kind of morphed into a tech podcast called Disruption, and about how technology affects our lives, and that wrapped up in beginning of January, and now I'm just kind of doing this. So I've been streaming a little bit that I have time for now that I'm, just doing Hearthstone stuff, and got the opportunity to cast with Bodicus the UHL semifinals and finals, which was a heck of a lot of fun. And that was before I have tried his patience to the point where he's probably never going to do that with me again.
We'll see.
I don't know. We could develop like a Sottle and Raven type type of dynamic by the time we're done with the control priest era. But yeah. So I mean I've been playing Hearthstone since they released the phone client. I actually played it in beta. I played Magic a long time ago. Because my parents refused to buy me a Super Nintendo. So my way of getting back at them was by getting into a collectible card game because they didn't want to pay for a $200 console. So here, I'll get this $12 deck of cards that's going to cost you several $1,000s by the time you're done with it.
Oh gosh. I'm just thinking about the economics of that, and like that's a pretty big example of initial outlay versus long-term opportunity cost. Like really good example.
Yeah, it's basically like the ARM versus the fixed interest loan of gaming. So so I got into that. It was like 1995, I think. Revised was just out, and I played that up until my freshman year of college. I got like top 16 and I think a Stronghold pre-release sealed deck tournament, and then I decided it was just too expensive. I couldn't keep up with it. So I picked up Hearthstone when it was in beta. I decided that it was Magic for babies and put it down, and I didn't pick it up again until the phone client came out. And I was I was doing Isometric at the time, so I was looking for games to play, and that was obviously one. And then it got to the point where we had a segment on Isometric every week. What are you playing? And at a certain point, my co-host had to pull me aside and say, you need to say something other than Hearthstone. So, I've been doing that ever since. That came out between Blackrock Mountain and TGT, and I've been playing ever since. And got legend a few times, and hopefully again this month, but we'll see. Not the way I've been playing today, but
And tell us about kind of your involvement in the community. I think we first started interacting in this time legend back in Velen Chosen um, which was at the kind of formation of this podcast coalition that seems to have popped up. But tell us how you got involved in the community aspect, 'cause it seems to be something that you are kind of addicted to at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of looking for, since I was banned from talking about Hearthstone on my own podcast, I was kind of looking for, other people to discuss it with. And I had started listening to Valen's Chosen right before the standard rotation, I think. And they had just started up the Discord. So I had joined in there, and I've been kind of, in there from the beginning of when they started that. Eventually I became an admin in that group. Um, and that's where I got to be friendly with Rob and Andrew and Grant and Eve. And that kind of led to we kind of had a small community at the time. And then I think it was around, was it like October that Blister Guy and Cinder and Watchman had like the This Time Legend thing on Twitter? That's where it started, I think.
They had
then
the bet, and I know Appa, I know you were there for that bet. That was when Cinder hit it the first time. I think was like Pirate Warriors peak, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, I was there whenever Cinder hit it. We were playing a bunch of aggro shaman. And then he had like 2 stars left. And then I was just like, you know what, dude? Me coaching you through this is gonna take too long. Just play some Pirate Warriors. So he just won 2 games and hit Legend within 30 seconds of the reset.
Yeah, and that was around. Yeah, it was what Andrew and Blister were betting who was going to get Legend. And that was also, I think it was it was then into like the beginning of next year where kind of a little movement started over in Valen's Chosen.
Yeah, and it was like that February or March that someone had the idea to start that channel up where it was basically just tryharding and kind of helping each other through. And I had not gotten to Legend by that point, and like you and Blister Guy had both come in and were like a good support network for that, which I think that we all kind of needed a supportive group kind of helping each other along and getting advice from people who had been there before. And now that's kind of where I spend a lot of time kind of talking people down from the tilt ledge a lot now, kind of trying to pass that on. And I've struggled. Anyone who's played this game has struggled with tilt. And I have talked on my show about how being diagnosed with ADD at a later stage in life has kind of taught me to deal with RNG in a way that most people don't, because like my entire life up to age 35 was just randomly failing at things because my ADD wouldn't let me concentrate on it long enough. So I kind of have a different perspective, and I kind of try to be a calming influence and help people stay positive, because that's like, once you have the skill, like that's like 90% of it is just keeping a positive attitude and not tilting and not compounding the problem when you have a bad day, and not letting yourself turn into a subreddit and start spewing salt all over the earth and burning things down so nothing will ever grow again. So and I feel like we've helped a lot of people between that Discord and the season goals and the Concede Discord, and and Blister Guys Discord, and across a number of others that we're all kind of in the same circles in. And I think it's something that you really do need when you're trying to do this, especially for the first time, because you need to know that some of this stuff is like normal. Like ladder anxiety is real, and you don't necessarily need to let it overtake you, but you kind of need to hear from people who have been through it before, like, you can do this, you're good enough. If you got to 3, you can get to Legend. If you got to 2, you can get to Legend. But sometimes when you're pushing on your own, you don't necessarily know that because you haven't done it. So having other people tell you that everybody went through this, you're fine, just take a break and then come back to it and keep a clear mind. And I think that's really helped a lot of people. So I'm really proud to be part of that. And that's kind of the way that I've been approaching my role in this community now.
Yeah, ladder anxiety really does happen to everybody. Like earlier today, I logged on to Hearthstone. I'm rank 2 in standard. And I was like, I could play some Murloc Paladin and try and get rank 1. I was like, I'll play Wild. I don't want to lose rank 2 because I'm scared.
Exactly the same thing happened to me last night. I was rank 1 in standard, and I was like, I don't really want to stream, and I don't really want to play standard when I'm not streaming. So
like
I'll just play Wild.
I played Hearthstone at like a fairly high level for a very long time, and like losing a rank still like gives me a lot of anxiety.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, it
like,
happened to me tonight when I went from 2 to 3, and I'm like, oh my god, and just like knowing that I'm gonna have to climb that way back, and it's like I know I can do it. Like I've gone from 1 to 5 to legend in the same month, and it sucked, and it wasn't my favorite thing to do in the world. But like it, it's like you're going to have setbacks, and anyone who thinks that they're going to be able to just skyrocket from 5 to legend in one run and not drop a rank along the way and not have a bad night, it's just like it's unrealistic. And but it's also like knowing that just because you lost that rank doesn't mean you can never get back there again, as long as you don't sabotage yourself by saying, well, I'm just going to keep playing until I get a win, or or just like rage jamming the button, because like we talk a lot about just keep pressing the button until you turn orange. But you actually need to know if you're in the right state of mind to keep pressing the button. Just because you keep pressing the button doesn't mean that you're pressing the button immediately after you've lost 5 in a row. Sometimes you press the button after a day, after you let yourself cool down.
And it's also super weird that we're talking about this right now, because it's literally not even halfway through the month yet. We're still like,
Yeah.
we're the new ladder changes have made
ladder resets, baby.
yeah, it's like amazing, but at the same time, like I think I don't know if I can speak for you guys, but it's like a weird kind of pressure where it's like, man, why haven't I hit legend on both servers yet? And it's like it's not even, it's the 14th. Like,
Yeah.
You just can't. It's weird the way things are kind of going. And I was talking to one of our patrons last night when I was doing a coaching, and it was just and trying to think through why it feels like things are getting harder. And it's like, well, the longer these sets are out, the more people have time with it, the better their skill level gets, the more they're able to catch up to you, because you're probably not improving as much as they're improving in that same time span. So their win rate goes up naturally, yours is going to go down, so it's just going to feel harder and harder. And then when the new set comes out, everything goes crazy again. And a lot of people that can figure it out right away are going to go back to having crazy win rates and all kinds of nutty things, and it'll feel all different again. But for now, everybody's kind of in the new set holding pattern where you're still playing with old cards, just waiting for the new ones to come out.
Yeah. And the other thing is that, people who who you're playing in the same circles with, if you're somebody who gets to legend regularly or gets close, they're already getting to legend like a week or two in, whereas normally that's like the last week of the month. So now you're sitting here at rank 2, like, and Andrew from the Happy Hearthstone, like I should mention that too, that I do the card reviews with Andrew over at the Happy Hearthstone, which we'll be doing next month. So he and I have a long running thread on Discord. Hopefully he doesn't mind me saying this. I'm sure he won't. But like we basically are each other's like Hearthstone gym buddies effectively, and like keep each other accountable and talking each other off the ledge when we're tilting and stuff like that. And I think that one thing that we've both felt over the last couple months is like when somebody else hits legend who normally hits legend around the same time that you do and you're not there yet, it's like, okay, what's wrong with me? They can hit legend. Why haven't I gotten there? And now that's happening like earlier in the month. Like I'm at rank 2 or rank 3 now. And I know Andrew's got to legend a week ago. It's like, well, why didn't I get to legend a week ago? Well, because I'm not the same person as he is, and I'll get there when I get there. But it's hard to keep that in your brain and say it's not going to happen exactly the same way for everybody, and it doesn't have any bearing on my skill. It's just that sometimes those things happen, and you can't let yourself get thrown down like a rabbit hole by doubting your own skill because other people are just doing better than you because they picked a deck that was better for the meta at the time, or they hit a good streak of RNG and you hit bad matchups, or there's all kinds of reasons that you're not where other people are, and you shouldn't compare yourself to them. But it's hard not to when you're on Twitter and you start seeing people posting deck lists with the orange gems in the middle of them.
Yeah, I relate to that a lot because like I play a lot of other games like aside from Hearthstone. Like I play Overwatch, I play Rainbow Six Siege a bunch. I play just a bunch of other stuff. I also have school and everything. But a lot of the times I'll just like see Bodicus hit legend. I'm like, okay, now it's time. I need to
Keep
get
up
there
with the
now.
Joneses.
Well, and a lot of this is it's all human nature, right? I mean, we talk about this natural competitive drive. It's why we play competitive games, and a lot of the ladder anxiety we have, even under a new system, even though it's faster, we have these preconceived emotional attachments to what these ranks mean. And even if we
Yeah.
get there faster, they still mean the same thing. They're still valuable to us in the same way they were before. Even if we just skip out the grindy part before, which probably means it was a worthwhile change, because we're cutting out the part that wasn't emotionally resonant to us, and we're sticking with the part that is emotionally resonant, but we just get there a lot faster, and then we have a lot more time to be anxious, which is, it has its ups and downs. And yeah, I mean, all this talk about legend competition among friends, I mean, you never want to be, to use the gym buddies metaphor, the one lifting the least amount of weight, and
Yeah.
and it's like this is a major problem if you're like friends with Cream Puff on Twitter, because he hits legend on like 4 servers in the 6th,
Yeah.
and is
Yeah.
currently featured
Yeah.
in the front page of Beer Brick, and it's like, oh, well, I guess I have to catch up to that guy. So it makes a lot of sense. I mean, and a lot of the role that you've had, Steve, is being in multiple Discord is kind of the, I don't know, Hearthstone psychologist at this point. I mean, you
Yeah,
find yourself
sort of.
that way over
Yeah.
at Blister's Discord. You find yourself this time. Legend was a big psychological movement, and there are a lot of players still, and there always will be, as long as there's human nature and addiction mechanics. There will always be desire to rank up and fear of losing a shiny thing.
Yeah, yeah, and sometimes that's all you need is just to hear that. Like Eve from Velen's Chosen got to legend for the first time this past week. We should mention that too, because that was really a
Really
really
awesome.
big deal for her. And she was the day before, literally, she's like, I just fell down to 4, and I'm really frustrated. I said to her, like, you got there before, you can get there again. Just don't make it worse. Like, take a break and then come back to it when you've got a clear mind. But you have the skill to do it. You've gotten up there before. If you can get to 2, you can get to legend. You just need to not make it worse by tanking yourself all the way down to the floor. And then she got to legend the next day. And sometimes that's all somebody needs to hear, is just get them to help get themselves back into that positive mindset so that they can stop worrying about the rank and start focusing on the games. And then things just happen. Sometimes
Yeah.
not, but sometimes.
Yeah, you're not always going to get there, but if
Yeah.
you're doing it correctly, you're always going to learn something on the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's more valuable than anything that you can actually get from achieving something higher, right?
Yeah, I've said, like, I've never gotten to legend when I'm worried about what my rank is. I've always gotten to legend when I'm messing around, I'm trying a new deck, I'm trying something different, and then all of a sudden I just string a bunch of wins together because I'm playing well and I'm not worrying about where I am, and then I look down and I'm at rank 2 or I'm at rank 1. That's when I get to legend. I never get to legend when I'm like, oh boy, if I lose this star, I'm going to go back down to rank 3, and then I'm going to have to climb all my way back up, and it's going to suck, and I don't want to do that. Like, that's never a good mindset to be in. And so a lot of it's just kind of the mental game once you have the skill, and it's hard. It's hard for a lot of people, and it doesn't get easier. Unfortunately, the more times you get to legend, it's still a grind, and that's still the biggest hurdle I found is just being able to keep yourself in the right mindset that you're focusing on the game and not everything about what it means to you.
Yeah, a lot of this is taking the right amount of responsibility, not enough and not too much, which
Yeah.
is very difficult to do. Because there are some games where you say, I could have played that better, but you don't ever want to get to the point where, like, oh, woe is me, I'm the problem. And then there are some times you can say, there was nothing I could do that game, but you don't want to get to the point of, well, there's never anything I can do any game, my opponents are so
Yeah.
lucky. And there's like, there's a light side and a dark side to both self-blame and external blame, and you got to find the exact perfect middle of this. It's
Yeah.
difficult to do. I strongly recommend, if you were a listener, finding Wickedwood on literally any social platform. There's a lot of them, and picking his brain about this or watching someone else pick his brain.
Yeah.
But we are
Yeah,
25
I'm always
minutes
happy
in.
to talk to people about it and help out, and I think that's I think it helps a lot of people. So
I agree wholeheartedly. And the episode that we have done of the Happy Hearthstone discussing legend mentality, which I think is
Yeah.
almost a year ago now, still one of the things that I am most proud of contributing to the community, and I would strongly recommend. That's timeless advice right there, and I'm not just saying it because me and Steve are on it, but me and Steve are on it. So
it was pretty good though.
yes,
Those guys knew what they were talking about.
exactly, and they were so gosh darned handsome. So
Yeah.
um,
Dashing, might even say.
I would say that. I'd say dashing.
Yeah.
So Steve, how about you come along in an episode of the Concede podcast with us?
That sounds like a good idea. Let's do that.
I thought so. So let's talk about our ladder performance a little bit. Bodicus, why don't you start? Are you legend on 3 servers yet?
No.
It's all my
So
fault.
so yeah, that's fair. So I'm still legend on Asia, I guess obviously, but I haven't played much over there. I did try to finish a warlock quest over there. I had cube warlock and went like 2 and 9 or something, and it was pretty miserable. But
Did you get mind controlled?
no, I don't remember what happened. It was not going well. But on NA, I had a pretty sick streak. I was on Saturday. I started at rank 5. I couldn't find anything I was winning with, and I was like, okay, here are 2 classes I don't have golden. I'm just gonna play decks from those classes that I think are fun, and we'll see how it goes. And so I started on Hunter, the Beast Hunter, and I was like, this feels like pretty good. I have a decent win rate, but it's not. I'm not really driving with it. And then I started playing Evolved Shaman, and I was like, oh man, this deck is sweet. And I was just like high rolling the crap out of people and just, basically beating everybody. And then I got up into rank 1, and then the next day I started at rank 1 and went straight up to 5 stars, and then lost. I was like, okay, missed this final boss. We're still good. We'll play a little more. And then I got up again, and then the priests came, and they kept coming, and they kept coming. And I looked at my stats, and I had like over 70% win percentage against everything else, and I was like 1 in 15 against priest. So I kept hitting that, went back down to 2, and ended up playing some dude paladin, and I'm back at 1 and don't know what I'm gonna do. I really want to try to hit legend with Evolved Shaman because it's a lot of fun, but if I play against any more priests, I might be a little upset. That's as delicately as I can put it.
Yeah, I think that we'll probably get to the point where we can extrapolate that a little bit more later in the podcast. But before we get there, hey Appa, how's your ladder experience going?
Pretty good. I haven't played all that much this past few days because coming off of like midterms and stuff, and it's like got some life stuff going on. Like not bad stuff, just like we're gonna be moving in a couple months, so we've been looking at like apartments and everything. So I've been playing like too much Hearthstone. Believe it or not, like the relaxing card game isn't the game that I play to be therapeutic. I go and play Rainbow Six Siege for therapeutic gameplay. I go and shoot people in a very fast-paced competitive environment instead of playing cards. So I've been playing a lot of that like the last few days. But right now I'm at rank 2 in standard. I hit like rank 2. I think I'm like 3 stars or something, and I'm just like settling down there and like build the nest at rank 3 or rank 2 3 stars. And I'm trying to get up to rank 5 in wild. I want to hit legend on EU and standard and in wild, because I didn't hit legend and wild last month and I wanted to, but I really like that format a lot. And I just started my first arena run of the new arena like update that they pushed out, and all these decks feel really powerful.
Yeah.
Like I have a Pyros, I have a Ysera, I have Flame Strike, I have some more removal spells, and like all the games feel really powerful. My opponents are just like making mistakes, and it's awesome.
We're definitely going to talk about new arena. I was actually right before we started the stream while I was setting up. I had Crip on in the other window, and his first arena draft he got 4 Spike Ridge Steeds.
Oh my god!
So I think there's probably some ground for us to talk about here. But we'll get to that shortly. Hey Steve, I hear you've been playing a little bit of arena. So where are you at?
So I will just say, like, thank Broad for this new ladder system, because like I was away at a conference last week, and between like the sketchy Wi-Fi on the plane and like being at a conference for 12 hours and then trying to focus on anything remotely like playing Hearthstone well, I did not do very well, and I actually ended up the beneficiary of some of the bonus stars. So even though I didn't hit legend last month, they started me at like rank 3 in wild and rank 4 in standard. I squandered that entirely. by trying to play after this conference and got myself back down to 5. But I was able to go on Friday after I got home from like 5 to 2 in a pretty quick. And then I've just kind of been bouncing between 2 and 3 in standard for like the last few days. And I've mostly been playing the Control Priest that I wrote the guide up about, which is making Vodicus's life miserable. And I'm so sorry. I really am sorry. I don't want you to be miserable. I want everybody else to be miserable, not you.
I appreciate that.
But
doesn't fully help, but it helps a little bit.
Well, I'll tell you that I probably hate playing against Control Priest about as much as you do, because the mirror is the worst thing in the world. So and I've been just getting murdered by Control and combo priests mostly. I was looking at my stats, and it's exactly the same thing. Like, I'm beating up everything except for priest, and I'm like 2 and 8 or something like stupid like that. And then today I was playing, and like I had one game before dinner, and it was Quest Mage. Like, no. And I've been playing multiple Quest Mages and multiple like Malygos, Velen, OTK Big Priest, which I don't know where that came from. And as a Big Priest person, I'm offended by it, and I feel that it's an abomination. So anyway, so I'm kind of bouncing around. I may have to switch off the priest because it seems like the meta is changing, but I'm still probably gonna stick with it because I'm stubborn. And then I'm at like rank 4 in WoW, but I've been kind of just playing Secret Paladin in WoW just because I'm using that as like a break, because I can't play 2 like super cerebral decks at the same time on both ladders. Like, I need some place to like let my brain rest. Though I was playing Malygos Druid in Wild at the beginning of the month, and I love that deck. That's so much fun, but it's not really good right now, but it's fun.
Real quick side tangent. Did you see were you just talking about the Velen Priest deck, the new one that's like dragons, but it has Velen and Mind Blast in it? It's like a weird OTK.
No, I think he's talking about the big priest deck.
Yeah.
It just like changes out Ysera and then something else for
and Lich King
Malygos and Velen. And then you have like Mind Blast and Holy Smites and stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just randomly go like Barnes, Mind Blast, you're dead.
Yeah. Or sometimes, like happened to me, you go Spellstone, get them both back, and then Mind Blast for 20 and Mind Blast for 20 and Holy Smite for 16, and they're dead.
Well, I'll have to link you to this deck. There's like a Velen, it's like a Dragon Priest that has Velen and Mind Blast in it. It's really weird.
That sounds delicious.
I think that's Zetalot's deck that he was
Oh,
playing.
yeah.
That
Sounds like
idea.
Zetalot.
I love Priest, but I can't play Zetalot's decks. Like, he's like on a different level from the rest of us.
He's pretty far away. I agree with you that like Mally Big Priest is what happens when you take a regular Big Priest and say, how do we get greedier? And that just feels wrong to me.
Yeah, it's like, how do we give up game against aggro and make ourselves better against the slow decks, which we were already awesome against?
Yeah. Like, instead of
I didn't
grinding
think
them
that
out.
anything could beat like Wild Big Priest, where you're resurrecting double Ragnaros in the same turn, but this somehow manages to, and I'm not a fan.
The plural term is Ragnabros.
Oh, I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
knew that too, and I misspoke, and I have offended everyone. And
It's fine.
apologize.
I forgive you for now, at least while we're on the air.
Okay,
So
fair enough.
for me, I've been playing. Actually, I have had trouble looking myself in the mirror. I've been playing Combo Control Hybrid Priest, which is Windello has been playing it, and it's a combo priest, except you take out a couple cards and you put in Pint-Sized Potion, Shadowward Horror, and Cabal Shadow Priest, and that's the high end of your deck. And you have double Void Ripper, single Inner Fire. So you can still go Shadow Visions for the Inner Fire, but you're usually going to switch your guys with Void Ripper. And it's been really fun for me. I agree that I'm going to be changing most likely because the meta is definitely shifting a lot. We've played against so many Miracle Rogues and Mill Rogues and Quest Mages, and I've seen a bunch of Jade Shaman, which is not a great matchup. There's a lot going on in the standard meta, so I might have to switch. And really, a lot of what we've seen is that regular old combo priest is still really, really powerful. Tyler Rooted hit rank 3 legend on ladder with it a couple days ago. RDU compared it to Patron Warrior, and he's been playing it. And no matter how many Void Lures they have, if you go Mass Dispel, Potion of Madness, Divine Spirit, Inner Fire, they still die. So, just saying that's something that is
If you're
happening.
looking for something to beat these greedy decks also, I feel like I should mention, just play Seeker Mage. It's still good. You
Yeah.
don't lose to Paladin, but you'll just farm all these greedy
Yeah.
priest decks.
But I haven't even seen any that many paladins. Like I've seen like 1 or 2 paladins in the last couple days
Because they're
just-
tired of getting Dustbreakered.
Yeah, Dustbreaker and Primordial Drake. So I don't blame them for going away. But
Well,
yeah,
that's why you
can't go-
play. That's why you play Dude Paladin. Dude Paladin does not care so much about Dustbreaker. It really cares about Defile.
It doesn't care
Shadow
about
Word
the first
Horror is kind
or
of rough.
second Dustbreaker all that much, but it cares about the third AoE, which Priest has a
Yeah.
little bit of a
Yeah.
hard time finding.
Yeah,
Or the
like
sixth
when
or
you
the
start
seventh,
mixing
yeah.
in the horrors with extra primordial drakes, and yeah, then it gets. But this variation, the one that has like the combo and the pint size, is an abomination.
Yeah, it's real
Okay.
good against Dude Paladin because you also start doing like, oh, you're going to play Righteous Protector? That's mine now. I'll take that. And then you bookworm them, and then you just suddenly kill them out of nowhere. It's been very effective against Dude Paladin, but it's slow enough as a variant of Combo Priest that it doesn't really beat the decks like Kingsbane Rogue, which whether or not it's a mill deck, it still loses. Combo Priest still loses to it. However,
this is a
that's-
You
PG
see-
show, right? Like
you see, nobody was talking about Mill. All right, Hat.
Hey,
You had to bring it up.
I heard him say it. I gestured wildly into the camera, but was not going to say anything. And
Okay.
I think we should not
Rogue
say
as
anything.
kill your opponent. That's what he said. He
That-
didn't say
we're gonna stop. We're gonna
Yep,
stop
let's
now,
do that.
and
We have lots to talk
we're
about.
we're 38
There's a
minutes into
new
the
expansion.
episode, and we haven't talked about the Witchwood yet. So how about we talk about the news, fellas?
Let's do it. So we have a new expansion, and I could not be more excited. Guys, did you see this trailer? I thought it was fantastic.
Everybody saw this trailer. Let's be real.
Okay, sorry for asking.
I
Did
love
you
that
guys
you
love
had
this
it open
trailer as much
there,
as
though.
I did?
Yes, it was
Yeah.
awesome.
This is
Yeah,
like
okay.
a Maleficent level evil Disney vibe. Like it's not quite Whispers of the Old Gods, but it's a similar feeling. It's all about like the 60s 70s animated doom and gloom, and I'm really digging it. And the werewolves, excellent
it's like-
singers.
It's like
Really good.
somewhere between Whispers and like Magic's Innistrad, and I'm
Yeah.
super about that.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just talking about the trailer specifically. Like we can get into the set and all of that stuff, but just the trailer specifically, I think Ben Thompson was like the perfect. I don't know if straight man is the right word, but like the contrast between Kosak and Brode, and then Ben Thompson on the other side of the camera, I thought was hilariously just great. Like.
Yeah, and them just like playing into the community, like at the end when they show the shaman card and like, no, nerf it, it's OP. Have you thought about the design implications and running away? It's just absolutely like I love how and they've done this even like back with like Arthas and in the solo content and stuff like that. Like I love how they show that they understand the community, and that even if the community is sometimes ridiculous, they hear it and they can play into those jokes, and it landed really, really well. Like I didn't know what to think when they were like leaving all these tweets all through the weekend about, oh, I'm going camping, and oh, so and so hasn't come back, I better go look for them. Like I wasn't sure what to think about that, but it was all worth it for that trailer.
Yeah, I really wanted to tweet out something to effect like, these guys have been missing for this many days. How has nobody called search and rescue? Like, what if these guys are actually like legitimately in trouble? Like, anyway, so a few notes that we know about the upcoming set, The Witchwood. It releases in April. They're assuming mid-month-ish. I think the estimates are like April 12th-ish. Some people have been saying April 13th because it would be Friday the 13th, and it kind of goes along with the whole like horror vibe. And the only reason why I don't want it on the 13th is because if I can get it on the 12th, it means I get it a day earlier, and I think that's better. We got some new keywords, Echo and Rush. I think we'll get into those when we get into the cards that we talk about. The single player content is going to be called Monster Hunt. Basically, there's going to be 4 like kind of new unique heroes, going to be very similar to Dungeon Run. The heroes are called the Cannoneer, the Houndmaster, Time Tinkerer, and Tracker. Another awesome thing that they're doing with the new set is instead of the normal $50 for 50 packs pre-order, they're actually calling it, you get an extra bonus 20 packs on top of the normal 50 pack pre-order. So really upping that the amount of card packs you get, which is obviously great. I'm assuming pretty much all of us pre-order the expansion every month, but getting an extra 20 packs is just kind of great. I think it's I heard another podcast talk about how it's really good for our international audience because the prices kind of went up for them or something, or it wasn't quite the same that it used to be. So now it's just better value for our international players. There's going to be 135 new cards. There was in the trailer, they kind of previewed that Shaman is going to have a new hero card, and Ben Brode confirmed that it will be the only new hero card in the set. There's not going to be one for every class, just for Shaman. Every class will get 2 legendaries, and to expect a card reveal stream, I believe it's on the 26th of this month. So, what do you think, Wicked?
Yeah, I mean, I like the theme. I'm really into kind of the Disney-fied gothic horror type, but like haunted mansion style theming almost. I know that's ghosts and not werewolves, but I'm never disappointed with their theming anyway. I thought they really nailed it with the reveal. I thought that the cards that they showed were obviously they're the least interesting ones, at least the ones that are there to like introduce the flavor and introduce the mechanics, but even those give you plenty to think about, especially with the 2 legendaries that they revealed. And I think 70 packs instead of 50, there's been a lot of talk about the cost of the game, especially as they've moved to 3 expansions a year as opposed to, adventure. So being able to give people more bang for their buck, I mean, and they've shown that they're willing to give out like 3 packs because ladder was down for a day. Like, a few more packs really doesn't hurt their bottom line that much. And I'm sure that they've done the math and figured out that, if they make it 70 packs, that this many more people will buy it, and it'll kind of offset the people who are just going to be completely free to play. It does make a big difference in terms of whether you should. You always should have pre-ordered, but now it's really like if you're going to be playing seriously, you need to pre-order because you're going to be so much further behind if you don't. But I mean, at the end of the day, like, you put so much time. If you're playing that seriously, you're putting so much time into the game. Like $50 every 4 months is a pretty good bargain.
Yep, I totally agree. And I wanted to make a little note here that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about, just regarding the fact that Shaman will be the only one getting the new hero card. And I really like this change because what I can definitely envision is for our next few sets having different classes getting hero cards, and not all 9, and kind of keeping a rotation every standard set of having every class has 1 to 2 at a time going on. So I would expect like maybe even next set we see 2, maximum 3, but never really getting all 9. I know that not to make too many Magic the Gathering references, but in Magic the Gathering they came out with a new card type called Planeswalker, and when they first came out with it they made one for every color, just like how when they did it for Hearthstone, they made one for every class. But then over the course, they only released 2 or 3. So I could definitely see future sets having, 1 or 2 per class, and just kind of over the course of the 6 sets for the year, filling out all 9 classes with those cards. So
it makes it a lot easier to handle in terms of like deck building against it if it's powerful. And it also puts a lot less strain on like their R&D team or their creative team to like come up with 9 new heroes like every single expansion. Yeah. And like what I mean by it's easier in terms of like deck building and gameplay is it's much easier to have a metagame with say just Gul'dan being good or like being around instead of Anduin plus Gul'dan, because like you can build decks to like target one of them, but if you have like multiple hero cards that are like very, very strong, it's hard to kind of target both of them at the same time. So that's I kind of like how they're moving towards, or at least it looks like they're moving towards just one per expansion. It'll make it easier in case one of them is like very strong or like maybe on the cusp of being like oppressively strong, then it'll be easier to build your deck against that hero card.
Especially because there's no counterplay for it. Like there's no way to stop a hero card from coming down. So if they're going to do that, I'd rather that they be a little bit more cautious. The only thing that makes me a little nervous is that they haven't really had a very clear plan for Shaman since Tunnel Trog and Totem Golem have gone away, and they've tried like something completely different every expansion. Like we had the whole freezing thing that didn't go anywhere, and we've been kind of getting different evolve effects and kind of going in all in on that. But now some of the evolution's going away, and I'd really love. And then some of like, okay, well now we're gonna go back to Overload with the Spellstone, but that didn't really work either. So it's like I hope that they have a clear plan for what they want Shaman to do, because it really, other than, lose to Control Priest, it hasn't really done a whole lot. Sorry.
No, you're not.
It's
No,
so
you're not
sad
sorry.
because like
Not even a little
Shaman
bit.
is like entirely reliant on expansions in terms of how playable it'll be.
Yeah.
Because like its classic and basic cards are they're just horrendous. Most
Especially
of them are.
after the Hex nerf too.
Well, they're
Yeah,
horrendous
the
except for
vast
Flame Tongue
majority are
Totem.
very bad. So they're just waiting for expansions. Be like, did we get a card that's playable?
Yeah.
Well, and like
Or-
the thing about asymmetry here is that we're already asymmetrical in two card types. One is weapons, where 5 classes in the game didn't get a weapon outside of Medivh until this set, and they're still asymmetrical, and that's been okay for as long as the game has existed. Once they nerfed Fiery War Axe, they actually were pretty even in power level, and even then Warrior was the weapon class for a few years, it's fine. And the other class that they are already asymmetrical on is hero cards, because Lord Jirax has been in the game since the game was printed. And him being around changed how Warlock played in the late game, but didn't ruin Hearthstone. So we already have 2 Warlock hero cards. One just happens to be a minion. But a legendary hero card and a legendary minion don't have to be all that different. Because you look at a card like Archmage Antonidas, you can't really stop that either. If someone wants to kill you with Archmage Antonidas and they set up their deck to build a bunch of fireballs and then kill you with them, they can do that no matter what you do, with the exception of Dirty Rat, which is rotating out and which is also kind of a unique effect. So we already don't have a
And
ton of
Potion of
counterplay.
Polymorph, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
But that's also going away, so yeah.
and you just test it with any other minion. There's a lot of ways to change the interactivity, and we don't really know what the hero card's going to be. They could very easily have a hero card that makes a big crazy minion, and the hero power becomes an always on negative effect for yourself. Right? There's so many different ways they could go for it. I, for one, think it's great that they're opening up this design space and allowing themselves to make this as an additional card type, because more tools in the development team's toolbox usually means better gameplay for us as players.
Yep.
And also, Wicked, you did say no counterplay, and I would question just a little bit, because there is that 2/5 that turns off hero powers.
Yeah,
That is, it's like minor counterplay, but yeah. Anyway.
Something that dies to Shadow Word Pain isn't really super counterplay.
So, so instead of talking about cards we have no idea what they actually do, let's talk about some of the cards that they did reveal. So the 2 legendaries we've already kind of talked about this game. One is called Gen Greymane, and it is a 6 mana 6/5 that says start of game. If your deck has only even cost cards, your starting hero power costs 1. This is pretty interesting. I love the idea of start the game. Wicked, why don't you tell me what your thoughts on this card? Any decks you can already see? Like, I mean, obviously context is super important, and we only have a very small amount of cards. But any ideas for this card? Starting?
Yeah, I think a lot of the talk has been about the other one. I'm not really sure, other than maybe like a Face Hunter or something might want. I don't know what would really want a cheaper hero power that can't be upgraded to a hero like a Shadow Reaper Anduin, because it's only the current hero power, the starting hero power. It's not anything that gets replaced with a hero card. Yep. So because obviously your first thought's going to be, okay, well I'll just machine gun them with Anduin, but that's not going to work. I'm not really sure what wants like a cheaper hero power. I could definitely see what would want an upgraded hero power because we have Justicar True Card and we know what was good with that. I'm like, it seems like, Face Hunter maybe could work just because it lets you fit in more hero powers over the course of the game and that adds up to more damage. But then again, you're also not developing and then you're losing tempo on board. So is that really what you want to be doing with your life? I don't know.
Right. I've heard of Paladin. Paladin seems quite strong with the 1 mana
Mhm.
hero power, getting the Silverhand recruit every turn,
Yeah.
and you still get your powerful cards like Call
Yeah,
to
Stegadon.
Arms.
Yeah. Well, and
Sigh.
like the thing about Paladin, the
Yeah,
thing about 1
Stegadon,
mana hero
Terran,
powers.
by
Yeah.
Concede, those kinds of things. Yeah.
But then you also lose out on some very powerful cards in that archetype of Level Up and Vine Cleaver and Lost in the Jungle. So it'll be very interesting to see. What did you have to say about it, Hat?
Well, so first of all, it's difficult for us to think about existing archetypes because we got a rotation coming. It's going to be very, very different. Second of all, it's the 1 mana hero power you really want proactively because you're basically saying, I'm going to be doing this on turn 1, and then I'm going to fill my deck with cheap, even spells, and every single time I have a mana floating, I'm just going to go to this hero power. 1 mana, 1/1 as a card is fine, and we've seen that because Dry Gulch Jailer is super good. So 1 mana 1/1 is okay, especially if it doesn't cost you a card. And Paladin is the it can be proactive with its hero power early on. Shaman can too. So Shaman might actually be using this. And then Hunter, the reason to use is because you want a hero power often, but I hate skipping turn 1. Like that sucks.
Yeah.
Have you ever tried being proactive with the 0/2 taunt hat?
I'm not saying it's good at it, I'm saying it can. And
And
yes,
also, Bloodlust is an odd cost card, and if you're trying to use 1 cost totems every turn, not having Bloodlust does not seem
but
necessarily like the way to go. But I do get what you're saying.
back in the day, you used to go coin totem so you could turn 2 Flame Tongue, and now you don't have to coin. It's fine.
Well, we also used to play
Seems
Chillin'
good.
Yeti.
Yeah.
Fair enough. And just
Shaman's
a quick
kind of looking
clarification.
raggedy in the base set, huh?
Just a quick clarification on Gen. We'll call it Gen.
Gen
That
Greymane.
0 is considered an even cost for the idea of even. Anyway, let's get on to the
So,
one.
hold
If
on.
we
So
have an
first of
even
all,
cost.
0 is
Sorry.
an even number. So that's, or it's an even thing. That's why that's being that way. But we do want to point out that Shifting Scroll both does not cost 0 and will be considered even.
Yes.
And those are two different concepts. And if you ever want a difference between 0 and null, get me and Wickedgood in a group chat, and then don't plan anything for the rest of your evening, and we'll talk through it.
We can have a lovely talk about database design and how null and 0 are different, and you will never ask that question ever again. I assure you.
I think it's so interesting, like just looking at, as Bonicus would refer to it, Jennifer Greymenifer over here.
It's
well, how would you pronounce it?
It's pronounced Gen. Gen Greymane. That's his name.
I think it's pronounced Greymane because that's the guy from Heroes of the Storm.
It's
so I
all
figured
about that alliteration, fam.
Okay, anybody who's come on my stream and has followed me and I've tried to say their username knows how terrible I am at pronouncing names.
All right, well, anyways, whenever you look at Gen, we can see, like, how much they tried to make this card not broken.
Yeah.
So they were like, okay, Kazakus did 0. Let's not do that. Also, let's make it not do Anduin. Let's make it the starting thing. We screwed up with that one.
Like, you think about all the ways, like, oh my god, I could abuse this. Nope. Okay, they did a good job. We're okay. We're okay.
Yeah.
We're not all gonna die. It's fine.
I'm surprised they didn't say starting on this next card, which I'll say right now is a 9 mana card named Baku the Moon Eater. Hopefully I pronounced that one right. And it says, start of the game, if your deck has only odd cost cards, upgrade your hero power. And it is a 7/8 beast. So, Appa. What do you, or Appa?
Oh my gosh.
Now I'm all
Technically,
self-conscious.
Technically, it is pronounced Appa, if you've ever watched the show. But I usually just let people do their own thing with that one, because I don't really care. But I like Baku a lot. He looks, he, she, it, whatever it is. Baku looks super cool. I've seen, like, talk on Twitter about, like, putting it in, like, Hunter. because you just like
Yeah.
play 1-drops and then you go 3 on turn 2, then you go 3 on turn 4, and you go 3 on turn 6 because it upgrades it to 3 damage.
Yeah.
Because it justicars them, right? Like
That's all
buff
it does. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's the Justicar buff is 3 damage with Hunter, so that's quite a lot of pressure that hero power puts on you with
Yeah.
Baku. I'm not sure. Well, I mean, I guess Warrior kind of makes sense, but
Yeah.
you're also saying I'm not playing Execute or Slam
Yeah.
or
That's
Blood
fine
Razor.
though. I mean, you could build you can just with what we have now, you can build a pretty good taunt warrior just
Yeah.
with what we have.
And
That's true.
The
Yeah, totally.
scary
you know,
part
you
is
can play
that-
Reckless Flurry now without having to worry about it completely blowing you up if you can immediately heal for 4.
Yeah,
And then you
you still get brawls and
like
like stone hills and
Yeah.
all that stuff. I just like my
And Gorehowl.
executes.
yeah, but you can play Gorehowl again because you'll be tanking up, so you can actually afford to hit
Yeah,
something in your
that's true.
face every turn.
I miss tank up a lot, so
Yeah.
I'll probably
lot-
be playing
yeah.
with this if I open it.
Yeah.
Also, Psychic Scream is an odd cost card, and so is Northshire Cleric. So
So is
I don't
Shadow
know
of
that
Death.
I don't know that you need many other cards than that. I guess Shadow
would know
Visions
that.
is even, but
Yeah.
You can't play mind control though.
thank God.
Can't play
All
Mind
right.
Control, can't play Cabal Shadow
I mean,
Priest.
I will say that the other class that I thought about is actually Shaman, and I think
Okay.
that this may have been why they nerfed Hex, because there was a time for like a month right before the last rotation where AP Drop was playing Justicar in a control Shaman, and he swore by it because being able to choose spell power or taunt every turn and get exactly the totem that you want is actually really powerful. The problem is that by the time that Justicar would come down, it would be too late. But this is the big difference, and what I really like about these two cards as compared to something like Kaliseth is that they happen every time from the start of the game as long as that card is in the deck. It's more of like a Malkazar effect than a Kaliseth. So you don't actually have to draw the card and play it. So you know that that's going to happen if you've gone through this deck building exercise.
Yeah, like
So-
how many times have you been playing against Shaman? Just like anybody. Have you played against Shaman where you've been like, okay, they're gonna hero power. If they don't get taunt, I win the game. Or
Yeah.
if they don't get healing, I'm okay here.
Yeah.
Or if they don't have spell
Spell
power,
power.
I don't get wrecked.
Yeah.
And then literally you are always hoping for them to get Searing Totem.
Yeah, it's like if
Yeah.
they
every
get the
single
1/1,
time.
it's just a stupid 1/1. Nobody
Yeah.
cares.
So,
So-
quick clarification for Baku. The effect is the exact same as what we've said a few times so far of Justicar True Heart, and it only affects starting hero powers, which I'm a little sad about because I would have liked to kind of see how they would have done all of the Death Knights or future hero cards, but that also seems like a lot of work to have to continuously like update that. So I think it's smart to kind of do it how they did.
Well, it triggers
Yeah.
the start of the game, right? So it's never going to upgrade anything beyond the 9 basic hero powers?
Yeah, but I didn't know if it like persisted because I didn't know if it potentially persisted.
I think
'Cause
anytime
like
you replace
Roz's
your
buff
hero power,
persists.
like it's
Yeah.
not like it
Like
upgrades your
Raza
hero power,
persisted.
because Justicar says replace your hero power with a better one. So I think the language is probably like Justicar's language has its problems, but when you say replace your hero power with an upgraded version, that's basically what you're doing here. If you were to Death Knight after this, then you would get the Death Knight hero power straight up.
Right.
Yeah, and one other thing that I'm going to say, and Andrew's going to literally kill me when I say this because I raged against this card so hard, and now I'm actually going to advocate putting it in a deck. Windshear Stormcaller is a 5 mana card. So if you can choose the totem you're putting out every turn, that actually makes that card a little bit more reasonable than it was before.
Why
I'm
would
not
it-
saying
Why would
that-
it make it more reasonable? It literally you can't have a duplicate totem out, so like choosing it doesn't change, right?
right,
like,
but usually you'd put that in stuff that would generate random totems, right? So you can still generate random totems and then pick the one you want to finish it.
Yeah, that
And
card's
if you-
like the wind caller. I don't even know its name. I just know it's a 5/5 that makes an Alec sometimes.
Yeah.
Whatever it's called, Mr. Alec here, buddy. He's like super middle of the road, and he just needs like a little bit of help
Yeah.
to be like played.
Yeah. So I could see that being a deck that shows up on Trollden eventually. I'll just say that.
Yes.
And Andrew, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
So kind of keeping on theme with the odd cost cards, because I think you guys might have mentioned Quest Warrior might potentially see some use out of that card. There's another card, Phantom Militia, showing off a new keyword called Echo, and it is a 3-mana 2/4 with Taunt and Echo. And Echo is essentially the same mechanic that Unstable Evolution has, where you can play it as many times as you have mana in that same turn. And so I could definitely see. I've heard people talk about this card as in potentially Taunt Warrior because, obviously it generates extra taunts for you. Real quick clarification is that any like buffs or anything or any cost reduction effects that go on this card will not persist on the future Echo cards, but we did see a tweet from Crip that said playing a card like this and Summoning Portal is actually pretty interesting because obviously that would persist. But Hat, what do you think of this card? It kind of I think it looks lackluster on the surface, but I don't know if you may see something that I don't.
Well, I feel bad for Squirming Tentacle, right? Because Squirming Tentacle is now like officially 100% power crept on.
It is the Magma Rager of the 3-mana 2/4 taunt slot.
Yes. Because, like, you can either have one 3-mana 2/4 taunt or one 3-mana 2/4 taunt that potentially could be 2 or 3. Echo is a powerful mechanic. We don't know much about it beyond that it's a powerful mechanic, but getting free copies of a card, virtual card draw, is a really good thing. So I am hesitant to say that any card with this mechanic is not good, because I probably wouldn't want to play this on turn 3, but I might want to play this on turn 6, and I certainly would want to play it on turn 9. On turn 9, it's a really annoying Serenite Chain Gang. Yeah.
All right, Appa. I saw you tweet about this card. What do you have to say about it?
So I don't have a lot to say about this card, like specifically, because it's like it seems like really middle of the road. Because like the upside's like okay, and like the body on it itself is like okay. So like nothing you're gonna do with it is like fantastic. But I have played a good amount of Eternal, which is another digital card game, and Echo is actually a mechanic in there. It's not the same, but Echo on that game says whenever you draw a card with Echo, create a copy of it. And that's really powerful in that game because like it's just like on any card that has just like reasonable stats, it's awesome because it's just inherent card advantage just like within the keyword. So if any card is printed, I don't think Phantom Militia's like gonna like get there in terms of power level to see competitive play, just because like the body is just so medium. It's like the most medium dude. But like if there's any card that's like reasonably statted to where like the worst case scenario like you'll put into a deck and be happy with it, it's gonna be awesome because it's just 2-for-1s built into the keyword, which I'm real excited about because I like me some 2-for-1s.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's important to remember with the first batch of cards that they're revealing that it's like they're just demonstrating the mechanics, and it's not going to be the stuff that's really going to blow your socks off. And like, I'm thinking that this is the Chill Blade champion to what eventually became Obsidian Statue with Light Steel. So I think card is fine. I'm kind of terrified about what Echo's Obsidian Statue is going to be.
Yeah, this to me, Echo to me, because I have played with it like in other games, is like what Hat saw Recruit being. It's like Hat saw Recruit at BlizzCon and he was like, maybe not a good idea.
So I'm going to stand by Recruit, probably still not a great idea. I think that
I agree too.
Most of the execution there was like not powerful enough to show the problem with the mechanic. It does not mean the mechanic is not problematic, but we won't get into that because that was last set, and I'm sure that anyone that disagrees with me is welcome to go play against turn 5 Lackey all they want and see how they feel.
Or
so
turn 3 Call to Arms.
So Echo to me, like on the card that it's on right now, it's not like doesn't look super busted, but it's one of those mechanics that I look at. I'm like, y'all better be careful with that one.
Yeah.
Speaking of new mechanics, we'll get into the other card they spoiled, which is called Militia Commander. It is a warrior card, a 4-mana 2/5 with Rush and Battlecry, gain +3 attack this turn. And basically, Rush is essentially charge, except that on the first turn, well, the turn that the Rush actually matters, it can only attack minions. So what do you guys think about this? I'll go in reverse order. Wickedwood.
I mean, I'm glad that they're doing this instead of printing more Charging Devil Swords, because Katharina's a card and Recruit is a mechanic now, and they can't really do that anymore without making things that are really busted. So I think this is good. I think it's hard. Again, it's hard to see what it's going to do, but I mean, you can give removal in a way that is not necessarily going to be spell based by doing this. And I mean, you still dice something like explosive runes, but being able to have removal that's not able to be counterspelled, as we see with Dustbreaker, is really powerful. And in the right deck, especially if it sticks around, I mean, you get a body left over, so you're removing and you're developing. You're not going to get a 2/5 at the end of it because it's going into something. But maybe you have a 2/3 or a 2/2, and being able for 4 mana to kill a minion and have a 2/2 behind is pretty good. Again, this is the most basic version of this. I'm sure that they will have things that are, again, like the Obsidian Statues of Rush. Please not Obsidian Statue, as much as I love that card. Please don't make an actual Obsidian Statue with Rush, because that would be terrible. But there will be other really powerful cards, or maybe you have something like like a Vicious Fledgling or something like that, or whatever it happens to be. I think there's a lot of it opens up a lot of ways to use this mechanic without leaving yourself open to Recruit breaking it like it does with Charged Devilsaur. So I think it's really smart.
Yeah, I think this is like such a beautifully designed mechanic. I think this is like what Charge should be in the game. They kind of ported Charge over from other games, but in those other games you could actually like block the creatures that were like attacking you, and you can't do that in Hearthstone. So like Charge is kind of problematic, and we've seen that in terms of like Leroy and Arcane Golem and stuff. Rest in peace.
It's actually literally every single card that had Charge on it in the base set has been nerfed into Oblivion, because there was Stone Tusk Boar,
except for Wolf Rider,
Arcane Golem, Leroy was nerfed, Warsong Commander was nerfed twice, the card Charge was nerfed.
Stormwind Knight?
Wolf Rider and Stormwind Knight are the two that are left standing. But what I really like about this card is
Rocketeer.
Reckless Rocketeer. Man, Charge is really just
I've actually seen that played multiple times recently, which makes no sense to me at all.
Charge is just a rate problem that you make the card either terrible or broken, and there's no in between. Either way, I agree on everything about the design, and I think this card in particular, there is something to it, because in Arena it's bonkers. This is effectively Bomb Squad for 4 mana in Arena.
Yeah, I was actually gonna say something about that. Like I think this might actually have. I don't want to get ahead of myself and be like, this card's awesome, but I think it like might have constructed applications, because like think about whenever Tempo Warrior was like solid, and you would just play Corpron Elite, and like you were like almost never going face with Corpron Elite. You were playing as like 4/3, trade into your dude, leave behind a body. Like this trades more effectively and leaves behind probably a more durable body. Like it'll be less attack, but it'll probably have more health. And I think that's probably just fine. Like if a deck like that were to exist, I'm not sure if it will, but I mean like we have Blood Razor and Acolyte and Armor Smith and stuff. So
Battle
like,
Rage is still
Shell's
around
probably
too.
there.
On turn 4, I mean, this is probably going to be deal 5 damage to a minion, get a 2/2, which for 4 mana is fine.
Yeah.
And it's just anytime in Hearthstone you've had a card that has dealt damage and developed, it's been good enough. Like pretty much every single time. And so this is on par with that. I mean, late game it's a worse top deck, because if you're trading into something bigger, then you don't. It's just 4 mana, deal 5 damage to a minion, which is pretty mediocre. And as just the reason that this is probably more balanced and maybe a little bit on the weaker side is because if you don't have a minion to attack, it's a 4 mana 2/5, and that's bad. And the body it leaves behind is going to be existent, but not usually all that relevant, except as a 2/2. It's still probably good enough, but I think the power level is just about right.
Yeah.
I heard it compared to Flanking Strike.
Yeah, that's what I was
somewhat
thinking, too.
similar to Flanking Strike.
Yeah.
But let's keep going. Not a necessarily new mechanic, but kind of a new way that they're going to represent the Worgen, because the set is largely based around Worgen. It is called Pumpkin Peasant. It is a 3 mana 2/4 sometimes, and then it also has lifesteal, and then it says that each turn this is in your hand, swap its attack and health, and when it swaps its attack and health, it becomes a 4/2 with lifesteal, and it gets all worgany and stuff.
Does its artwork change whenever it
Yes.
flips?
Yes.
Yeah.
Its artwork
That's
changes.
so cool.
It
Yeah,
starts
changes
off
from a human to a wolf and back again. Yeah.
Yeah, it starts off as a
awesome.
peasant and it goes through a rather unpeasant transformation.
So the biggest thing I'm trying to envision, and maybe you guys can envision this, but obviously there's this card, but I want to know how they can really make like the attack and health swap really relevant. I'm envisioning something like if its toughness is bigger than its attack, then it gets taunt, and if its attack is bigger than its toughness, get rush or something. What do you guys think, Appa?
Or does it even have to?
Or
Right? It doesn't even have to be that. It could be
Yeah.
anything. It could just change forms every turn.
Yeah, like I'm just like still thinking about how cool that is with the art changes.
Well, like, and one side could have taunt, the other side could have rush. Like,
Yeah.
there's so many ways for them to design this in a card that has two versions, a day version and a night version, and the two cards are similar but not the same. They could do a mechanic swap. It doesn't have to be attack and health. We've only seen attack and health. But it doesn't have to be
Yeah.
that way. It could be any number of permutations. So I really hope they do a lot with this because 1.5 cards in one is a really cool idea.
Yeah.
and, like it makes gameplay like a little more complex and like rewards you for kind of developing a strategy like over a few turns, being like what happens in like 4 turns when I have this, or I guess it's the same thing, but like 3 turns whenever it's like
Yeah.
flipped. It's like what happens then when I play that? Like, is it better now or is it better then? It's like, I don't
Yeah.
know. This mechanic's awesome. I love it.
Yeah, I guess the only place that I worry is that like this feels a lot like the elemental mechanic, and the elemental mechanic really hasn't gotten a lot of play because it locks you into that turn, and then if you miss it, then you're waiting 2 more, and so that may end up having it not see as much play depending on how they implement it. Again, if it's just attack and health swapping, maybe that's not a big deal. If it's some other mechanic that makes you play who Worgen at best every turn that is a little bit more impactful, then maybe that makes sense. But I'm interested to see where they're going with it, but I'm a little bit nervous just because I feel like elementals really didn't take off because that turn planning gets to be really restrictive. Like if you've ever gone into turn 7 setting up a blaze caller and then had to do something else, that feels terrible, and sometimes it's just easier to just play another card.
Well, but that's turn locky with external cards. This is turn locky with no external influence. So it's not
Right.
like I played my last elemental, I either get the 5 damage now or hope to draw it. It's I have to wait 2 turns to get the version of the card that I want, but I still get to have that. It's just time as opposed to external factors. So I don't disagree with the comparison.
Then it really becomes a question of like opportunity cost on the like quote unquote less powerful or like worse like flip side of the card, whatever you want to call it. It's like if the worst version, did I say worst? If the worst version is like still fine, then I think like a card with this mechanic will be like really solid.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I have the perfect person to ask about this last card that we'll talk about. Azalina, Soul Thief. It is a 7-mana 3/3 with Battle Cry. Replace your hand with a copy of your opponent's hand. How do you feel about cards that make your hand size match your opponent's hand size?
Well, I'm so glad you asked, but here's the thing.
Get out of orbit.
This is okay, but this is not divine favor level egregious. Because first of all,
I totally agree.
First of all, it's 7 mana. Second of all, it gets rid of all of your crap and doesn't give you more of your cards, it gives you more of their cards. I think this is more like half Dirty Rat and half Divine Favor. And I do see opportunity for this to be relevant in a control deck that's focused on card economy and maybe deck economy. Right? If you do Dead Man's Hand and then you do this and you take a Void Lord and a Gul'dan, you're pretty happy. It's really going to be all about, can you engineer a situation where you have built up a significant enough advantage that you don't really need your own cards in your hand anymore. You've built up a life advantage or changed a hero power. You have a board presence, and you want what your opponent is planning on doing. Because you think about if there's like an OTK mage deck, or if you can steal a Death Knight hero power or hero card. Um, it's and I think Steve, I think you were comparing it to Benedictus, and I'm getting kind of
Yeah.
a vibe of that too. Of it's about kind of augmenting your own deck strategy, but it's done in a really elegant way. I don't know if it'll be playable, but if it is, I think it'll be fair.
I really am not seeing, and I've been wrong before, but I am not seeing it the way that everybody else is getting excited about this. And maybe it's because I've been playing a lot of Draconiid Operative, and I keep getting offered Grimscale Chum and Call to Arms and some other card that doesn't do anything, some other crappy Murloc that doesn't do anything for me.
Divine
And it's
Favor.
like, yeah, or Divine Favor. Yeah, that's the card that Priest super wants is Divine Favor. So it's like a lot of the decks in Standard in Constructed are so synergistic that you're not just going to be able to take a random collection of cards from your opponent and be able to use them a lot of the time. And those cards may just be stuck in your hand the rest of the game. And is that chance that you're going to be able to get something super powerful worth putting a 7-mana 3/3 in your deck? It's going to have to be a really compelling argument given a lot of the other cards that we have.
Have we ever played Mind Vision and been happy about it?
No.
Yeah.
Because
No.
this is just a big Mind
Off of
Vision.
Lyra.
Yeah.
Off of
This is-
Lyra. I love
Have you
Mind
put
Vision.
it in your
Gets me
deck
2
on
cards.
purpose?
This is like Mind Vision in VR is what this is.
Hey, you never know. Dragon Soul might be pretty darn good after rotation, and we can like make some 5/5s, take some cards.
You have no
okay,
idea how
I'm
much
stre-
time.
I'm
You have
stretching.
no idea
You're
how much
reaching
how
there.
much time. Like I've really seriously tried to make that card work. It is not going to happen. It needs a lot more help than that. So
I tend to agree with you guys. I'm
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
messing around. But anyway, do we have anything more to talk about these new cards? I'm really excited for 2 weeks. I wish we didn't have to wait so long to get new cards, but anything else about this? I guess there's a rumor that there's a possible 20 free Witchwood card packs for completing quests over the first couple weeks after the set is released. This has been data mined by and posted somewhere on Reddit, I believe. So might change, but anything else about the new set, guys?
The question
Not
is, are
really.
the 20 packs the bonus packs that they talked about when you buy the set, or are they an additional 20 packs that you get for daily quest rewards? And I don't believe that's been confirmed.
if they're data mining them, they're probably additional packs. They wouldn't be part of the pre-order.
Well, but the
It
pre-order
seems like they were tied to quests as opposed to tied to the pre-order is the way that I saw it.
right. Well, the pre-order, if you look at the language, you get 50 Witchwood packs plus 20 additional packs. It doesn't say 20 additional
yeah,
Witchwood
that
packs.
could be sneaky.
It's it's tricksy like a Hobbit's, but we don't really know what they're gonna do yet.
All right, so we got a few more news topics in here. We'll go through them real quick. Cydonia did a article on what sets the pros apart called Tournament Deck Lineups. You guys can check that out on the official Hearthstone website. We have a link to it in the show notes. China released a full featured replay function in official companion app, and we have a link to the Reddit post in there. There was a off meta spotlight of some sweet decks at Top Legend. Looks like we have a Dead Man's Hand Warrior in here, as well as a Jade Druid who this is a
OTK Druid.
It's a
OTK
Twig
with
Druid.
Malagos, but no quest. That looks pretty
Nope,
interesting.
it's based on Twig of the World Tree. You have to twig
Got
it.
it.
Yep.
Yeah.
I know our own mid game. I heard them talking about this on Velen's Chosen about his stick deck, as he calls it, which has Auctioneer and tries to do a bit more of the cycling, less of the OTK, more like a Jade, but looks somewhat similar to this. Basically, trying to abuse Twig of the World Tree.
Speak softly and carry a big twig.
And then there's a OTK Paladin in there. So if you guys want to check that out, we also have a link to that in the show notes. The top Hearthstone players for February 2018 came out, and I put a list of a couple awesome wild players in here. We got Blister Guy finishing at number 38, Woodford at 52, Reganis Prime at 85, Cream Puff at 87, and Navalis at 193. So pretty awesome seeing all these guys from our community and, you know, walk to work community finishing so highly in the wild ladder.
By the holy light!
Wow, gold and legendary! We're not worthy! We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
And then we have another pretty big little section here for the last part of the news. Let's kind of talk about the new arena. I actually, despite how much I say I don't really play arena, I actually queued one up last night and played a bit of this. So let's who here has played the most of the new arena here? Who do you guys think?
Well, I'm like
I played 2 games of 1 run.
yeah, I'm like halfway through my 3rd run since the patch came out. So
I'm gonna say Hat. Hat, you've probably played the most of this new arena. What do you think?
I haven't started a run yet, so I'm gonna go with Steve.
Okay.
But thanks for thinking of me.
Oh, okay. Well, I've probably played the most then because I finished a run last night. I went 6-3. It was pretty awesome. I picked Rogue. I think I picked too many weapons because I think I had 5 or 6 weapons, which was clogged up a little bit. But I really like it. Basically, what they changed is it feels like you're getting overall more powerful cards over the course of the draft. The picks definitely feel a lot closer to each other, so all the picks felt a lot more interesting. And I've been noticing everybody's posting about how many legendaries they've been getting. So I had 2 legendaries, 2 or 3 legendaries in my deck, which were pretty sweet. But why don't you go ahead, Steve? Why don't you talk about your runs?
yeah, so my first run, I drafted a Warlock deck, and I don't even remember what it offered me, but it gave me Barnes, Kazakis, Jiraxis, Sogoth the Slitherer, and Ysera. And I mean, it was just like everything. Like you look at it, and the deck is one ofs because I had Kazakis early on, and it's just like, okay, well, here's Twisting Nether, here's a Doomguard, here's it must have been a pretty terrible selection for me to end up with the Tortola and Primalist, but I feel like it's like
some of you picked that on purpose.
Well, I mean, it was the best of a bad situation, but obviously I have a soft spot in my heart for the turtle. But it feels weird because it feels like your decks are better, but it's like nuclear proliferation, where everybody's decks are just completely ridiculous. Like one of the runs I lost to a druid who played Ultimate Infestation, and then the next turn drew into Spiteful Summoner, who also pulled an Ultimate Infestation. And I'm like, okay, I'm out. That's it. I'm done. So, it's hard to play around anything, and everything just kind of feels like it feels good because you're playing with actual decks that are generally of a decent power level, and you're not really in these positions where I have to take this card because the other 2 are garbage. But at the same time, it's like everybody's decks are so powerful that it's hard to play around anything, and it kind of feels like very swingy once you get into the matches.
Kind of feels really solitary because of the raw strength of each of the cards. Like in my second game that I played earlier today, my opponent was just like playing minions on the board, and I was like baiting him out, and I had a Flame Strike in my hand, and then like his last turn he played like 2 minions, and I'm like, you're dead. Flame Strike you. And like he couldn't really play around it, and like it kind of took away like from the gameplay a little bit. But I mean, overall I like the drafting aspect of it, in that like things don't feel as terrible now. I think they're definitely going to work on updating it to where like the decks aren't so powerful. But overall I like the change a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they're clearly working on some of the numbers behind it. Like the legendary offering rates need some work, because the Vorax and the Lich King should not be together ever. It was like, and I'm not the only one who's seen that. It's like the Vorax is like photobombing with like the Lich King and somebody else. And
I
it feels like
saw
they're all.
I
Yeah.
saw Nat Pagel, Nat the Darkfisher, and Prophet Velen as
Yeah, it's like
as the choices.
yeah. And I wonder if like if there's like some sort of math behind the scenes that are causing it to offer more legendaries because you're being offered more epics and rares in the new system, that like the way that it offers the legendaries hasn't changed, and maybe that's causing it to be offered more often. And they'll tweak those things, right? Like I don't mind that like day one there's going to be some weirdnesses, but I think that overall this is good for Arena in general. And I think that it's really good in terms of the desired audience or the intended audience for Arena, which is less people like Adwakta and Merps and more people who are just getting into the game and want to try out a bunch of cards that they don't have in their collection. And for those people, they'll actually be able to draft a decent deck and be able to have a legitimate experience without having to rely on third-party tools like Hearth Arena, or have to use a tier list, or be following a really strict drafting regimen of this is the curve that you need to get. I think that it makes it a lot more natural to just pick. You can't just pick the best cards because you do need to worry about synergies and whether you're drafting a decent curve and stuff like that. But you're never really backed into a corner by this is the only card I can take because it's terrible. So I think that it needs work, but I think that this is a really much better experience overall, even with the problems, than it was like last week.
Yeah, and we're looking at it, right? Adwakta wrote a long post on it, and I agree with about half of what he said. Really, we have a really positive infrastructure change combined with some execution problems. The problems aren't based on the logic that they used to change the infrastructure of Arena, and the equal power level drafting is clearly a good thing, but clearly in execution, they got a couple of things slightly wrong. And I think the thing that I didn't realize until I actually talked with Steve about it today is that before you used to be able to play around cards based on the rarity gem, but
Yeah.
now the likelihood of you seeing a card and the rarity gem have almost no correlation. So what's going to need to happen is Blizzard is going to need to either make arena-specific rarities or release some kind of information about how often are you now going to see a good epic versus a bad epic, or how often are you going to see Spike Grid Steed versus what's a bad paladin rare?
Holy Wrath.
Holy Wrath. Yeah, that's a good bad card. How often are you going to see? Because they're no longer the same rarity or frequency, and that's a really important distinction that is not currently represented in game at all. So I think it's relevant for that to be adjustable. Adwakta had, of course, strong arena opinions, as he is known to do, and this is also a really, really big change to how arena used to be. So of course there's going to be an adjustment period and people getting used to it, and they'll tweak the numbers. Legendaries and ultra premium cards need to be reduced a little bit. Like, I think everybody agrees on that, but the infrastructure change that they made is clearly a net positive and just makes Arena more interesting, right? It's not even that it's about reducing variance or whatever. It just makes each choice matter more and yet matter less.
Yeah. Yeah, and it makes it more fair for everyone who's playing it. It's not like I know where to get my information, so I'm going to be in an advantage. That kind of takes that away, and it makes it more game knowledge, which is the way that it should be.
Yep, I like it. And so now that I have successfully extended the news segment so that we have to shorten the Dexplanation segment so we don't have to talk so much about Control Priest, why don't we talk about some tournament results, Hat?
Bodicus is playing the long con here.
Wow.
You know what else is really good at playing the long game?
That kind of a long game plan.
Yeah. I think that's good at playing the long game plan. Well, we'll talk about that in a couple sections. But hey, let's do some Gadgets and Style tournament results.
It's the Grand Tournament!
All right, so the tournament results, we had kind of like 1.5 tournaments going on this week. We had 3 tournaments that were played, 1 that finished, 1 qualifier round that finished, and 1 qualifier round that started. We're going to start with the big one that was the most visible over the weekend. That is HCT Toronto at EGLX, which is a big gaming show. In the elimination rounds, Odemian, who's a French pro, and if you don't know him, you probably should, in the top 8, he went 9-0. And that's a really big deal. So that means that of all the players that were the best in the room, he beat 3 of them in a row without dropping a game in Hearthstone, which, as you know, has some variance to it. So really, really incredible to watch. He beat Hunter Ace, who is also a known top-performing pro, who used to be an expert at Raza Priest. Unfortunately, that deck's gone away, but he's still real good. Top 4 was Gallon 2 and 3 and Kalaxe. Kalaxe, Calax. Well, it's fine. Top 8 is Silent Storm, U8, Aka Wonder, and Psycho. So a very, very powerful top 8. But Odemian came out on top. We'll talk about his deck choice in a minute. For the Asia Pacific Wild Open qualifier, Jinsu and our buddy Reno Jackson qualified. Of course, Reno Jackson wins in Wild. We all knew that. The live finals are coming on March 31st. The tournament will be live in California. And then for WESG, the groups are ongoing, but early results are in. There were 8 groups. Now there are 4 groups. And most of the name pros made it through, except for former world champion Hoy. He didn't make it through in a very tight group. He missed on tiebreakers. Otherwise, Group A is Dog, Han, Frozen, and Fluffy. Group B is Nexo K40, Matt the Great, Xingxian, and Zeno. Group C is Luker, Tomas, Scream, and Luffy. And Group D is Fujitora, Possessi, Anthony 04, and Malygos TW. These are the 16 players that we have left. Really exciting to see how that's going on. The games in the group play are going to be ongoing tomorrow and the next day on the 15th and 16th. We will cover more as we get close to the top 8 playoff. As far as the tournament meta goes, well, some things have stayed the same and some things have changed. And as we will continue to talk about, the meta is evolving in Standard, and this is the golden age of Priest. Priest is growing, Priest is changing. Every player brought Priest and Warlock in the top 8. But those are the only 2 classes that were universally represented. For Warlock, 3 cubes, 3 controls, and 2 zoos. Pretty par for the course, and the zoo is kind of an alternative lineup. If you're either expecting your opponent to ban your Warlock or have a plan for Warlock, if they have a plan for control and you bring zoo, you're actually reasonably well situated. For Priest, 3 combo Priests, 1 Spiteful Priest, but that's only half the field. The other half is this newfangled control Priest that we've been seeing. Almost all of them had Elise. A bunch of them had Alex Straza. They were definitely meant to go for the longest possible game. So kind of interesting to see the proliferation there. For Paladin, it's 3 Dude Paladins, 1 Murloc, and 1 N'Zoth Control. For Mage, we had 2 Secret and 1 Big Spell Mage. For Warrior, we had 3 Warrior decks. And all of them were Dead Man's Hand Warrior. Ugh.
Yeah, that's a lineup that does not lose to Dude Paladin.
Yeah, it does not lose to Dude Paladin. Actually, Odemian in the finals, he brought heavy control, except for he was one of the 2 Spell Hunters in the top 8. So he brought Spell Hunter, and otherwise had Control Priest, Control Warlock, and Control Warrior. And yes, in the finals he banned Druid, because he was fine against Warlock and Paladin, so what else are you going to ban? How about some Jades? And there were 2 Jade Druids and 1 Spiteful Druid in the top 8.
It almost came back to bite him though, because Hunter Ace got Rin off like on turn 7, and speed runned the seals, and then Odemian was able to dirty rat out the Azari and then take control from there. So I mean, he almost found his Achilles heel, but that one dirty rat was able to just flip the game, and he never gave it back after that.
Yep.
Yeah, and earlier in the tournament, he was Hunter Ace was playing that exact same matchup against Fibonacci, and the exact same thing happened, except the Dirty Rat did not hit the Azari. And what ended up happening is, as soon as Fibonacci ended up having to Dead Man's Hand, then he played the Azari, and that ended it.
Yeah, he like waited on it. He didn't play it as soon as he could, and he was like, "Okay, you Dead Man's Handed, get dumpstered."
Yeah, it's just like a game of chicken at that point, and the Warrior's not going to win.
Yeah, and even Fibonacci played it really well counterly, like as soon as he played the Dead Man's Hand, trying to draw a couple cards to try to get the second one back in, and Hunter Ace kind of just had to go for it at that point, and that was good enough.
And it's interesting that also later in that game, which is one of our games to watch for sure, Odemian had to brawl away a Rin, the second Rin, and the second Rin gave him a second seal that caused Hunter Ace to mill Gul'dan.
Yep.
So it was really something to watch. The finals of that matchup are definitely the game to watch. And by the way, the game that we're talking about was not the interesting one. Like, which is also completely insane. We'll talk about that as well, but it's a really fascinating series. And then there were 2 Jades and 1 Spiteful. The most popular legendary was Back to N'Zoth, followed closely by Gul'dan, Tarim, and Rin, somehow. The most popular epic was Doomsayer, combined with Twilight Acolyte, and Drakop and Dustbreaker were the most frequently seen rares because they were in all the priest decks. As far as our wild tournament meta, we had limited deck lists available to us. The Asia qualifier did finish up, and the lineups both featured Jade Druid and Dude Paladin. But from there they split. Jinsu had Q Block and Reno Mage, whereas Reno Jackson had Pirate Warrior and Combo Dragon Priest. Kind of ironic that Reno Jackson didn't bring any Reno decks, but here we are. And it's worth noting as well, if you know how annoying Dude Paladin is to get off the board, imagine that in Wild, it's way worse. It's interesting to watch these decks, that these Wild decks are not messing around. And we don't really have deck lists yet for WESG, but there are way too many decks and matchups to watch right now, but when it filters down, we get more information, we'll be passing it along to you. Any of you see any of the Wild games?
No, I didn't. I just want to know, does this mean that Reno Jackson's going to be rich?
We hope so. I mean, he did well enough in the tournament, but remember this is only a qualifier, so I don't believe that he's yet achieved the promised richness.
Yeah, I do wish that they promoted the Wild tournaments a little bit better. There was also one this weekend, the XZ Dub or something like that. I forget what the name is, that had some really off the wall deck lists in it as well. Like there was like an OTK Defile Warlock and a Taunt Patron Warrior and like a whole bunch of interesting stuff. And I wish there were more promotion for the Wild tournaments, because I feel like those would be a lot more interesting, especially because there's more room for deck building and you get to see a lot more stuff that I mean, there's only so many times that you can watch, like Big Spell Mage versus Control Warrior. But, there's a lot of ways that you can go in Wild that creates a lot of these weird situations that you don't normally get to see.
Yeah, the games were a lot of fun to watch. I actually have one that I'd recommend, and that's the Reno Jackson versus Ray Pico in his finals game 2. Reno was playing Combo Dragon Priest, and his opponent was playing Dude Paladin. And the game goes back and forth for quite a bit of time. It's definitely worth your time checking out just to see how the decks fight similarly, but not quite the same. But I will say, if you are a Combo Dragon Priest and you end up getting a 429 taunt, you're probably going to win. I'm not going to say for sure, but I will say check out the game. There's a lot of
29 for sure?
Yes.
Oh
well,
my
429 for sure. For Odemian versus Hunter-Ace, Game 1 was awesome. That's the one we were talking about before. Was not as good as Game 2. Odemian was playing Control Priest, and Hunter-Ace was playing Big Mage. The game is 40 minutes long. It is 40 minutes for one game. And it is really, really incredible to watch how Odemian holds on. You know he swept already, so you know that he wins. But how he wins is still almost unbelievable to process.
Yeah, I mean, every time I play as a Control Priest against a Big Spell Mage and I win, I feel like I could run through a wall. Like, that matchup is so difficult.
Yeah. It was super tightly navigated, and obviously Odemian is a pro for a reason. And speaking of really tight navigation as well, WESG, there are a lot of games, but our buddy Dog went 3-0 in the group stage, and the Game 5 in his match against Exilus Math. It was Control Warlock against Big Spell Mage. And Dog very closely navigated a pretty unfavorable matchup there. I would strongly recommend checking it out as well if you want to see really masterful game planning. And the thing about that game is Dog is playing, so you know it's going to be over a little bit faster just because he's much faster at playing his cards.
Yep. And I just wanted to bring up real quick, Cora was casting Tespa again, the Tespa Collegiate Championships again this week. She was joined by J. Billy B, who is usually a behind-the-scenes guy. I did not get to watch a whole ton of this, but I always try to catch at least a little bit of it, and J. Billy B was actually quite entertaining, and I strongly suggest other people go out and watch it. And I will definitely, if I get some time, be going back and watching some of these games because it was quite entertaining, the few games that I was actually able to watch.
Yep.
Plus, it's Korra. You should always go watch Korra.
Yeah, seriously. And as far as this upcoming weekend, well, we've got quite a bit over the next few weeks. But this upcoming weekend, we've got HCT Bangkok, which should be pretty interesting, I think. And then after that, we're getting pretty close to the Wild Open in 2 weeks. And the WestG group play continues on, and so we'll be reporting on that as well. And that's the tournament section. I figure we keep one part of the show shorter. And now...
Yeah, we are deep in this show right now.
Well, are you ready for that Priest endgame? Because here we go.
So if you haven't guessed by now, probably due to what we've talked about earlier, and probably the title of the episode, whatever it is, it's probably going to be some pun involving Priest, courtesy of Hat and Steve. But we're going to be talking about Priest, surprise, and like why are we seeing Priest right now? And a lot of that is because Warlock is like the best deck, and like Warlock is so format warping that the decks that beat it like have like in order to not play Warlock, you either have to play like hyper aggro and just lose to the other aggro decks, or play Priest, because it can go toe to toe with Warlock in a long game and also has game against the aggressive strategies. And
but also, like,
that's
just real quick, a very specific kind of aggro. It can't be like hugely creature based, right? Like you can't like Dude Paladin and Murloc. Well, Murloc Paladin a little more, but Dude Paladin really struggles against it. But like you were saying, Secret Mage is quite good because it has the reach to be able to get over in the later. But sorry to interrupt you.
And like that's why we're seeing a lot of Priest builds with like mind controls and stuff in them that aren't playing Spiteful Summoner, because they're actually planning on casting the mind controls. Like that's their game plan. It's like, take your Void Lord.
Yeah, and it's you know, and Had, I'm going to say this is your fault because you sent me this first list that got me on this Control Priest train like a month ago, and I saw it and I may have squeed a little bit because this is like way back like last year around this time when we were doing the Coin Concede Listener League. I was playing that Yogg Control Priest that ran mind control because I had Medivh in it and all kinds of like nonsense that really shouldn't have worked. And that was kind of like what I've been trying to get back to. And this is basically you just take the things that annoy you and you kill everything else. And then you just say, come at me, bro. And that's pretty much it. Like Warlock, if they don't, you can play around this as a Warlock. But ultimately, the real thing is that you can't just go through Void Lords because they're going to come back twice. So the way that you keep Void Lords from coming back twice is you steal them. So you have Pint-Sized Potion and Cabal Shadow Priest. You have Mind Control. You can combine Pint-Sized Potion, Potion of Madness, Shadow Word Horror to get rid of it. It basically does not matter as long as the things that get resurrected die on your side of the board. And then after that, it doesn't like the Warlock kind of falls down after that, either Control or Cube. Even with Cube Lock, it's a little bit more dicey because they can burst you down. But generally, if you kill the Doom Guards and still take the Void Lords, you usually have taunts in the way when they try to resurrect the Doom Guards, and they can't burst you down, and then you can deal with that board after. And when they play Gul'dan, they're not getting a whole bunch of Void Lords back. They're not getting a bunch of taunts back. When they play N'Zoth, it's the saddest thing in the world. Seeing a Gul'dan come back with no value is just makes my heart sing as a Priest player because it means I've been doing my job. But after you do that, they rely on getting that swing turn from N'Zoth or from Gul'dan, and if they don't have that, they really can't do very much to you after that, especially if you have their Void Lord sitting in front of you, or you happen to steal a N'Zoth with a with a Draconid operative, and you put those down in front of you too.
Yeah, and they can't ever, like, if you're playing against a control variant of Warlock, they can't ever play Rin against you.
Yeah,
that's good.
well, they can. They just have to dark.
They have to like dark pact it in the same turn. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what, as a Warlock, that's the kind of thing that I started to see as people got used to this, is that anything that they wanted to make sure gets resurrected or gets the death rattle off, they kill it on their own side.
Do it on their turn.
Yeah,
and like we're seeing like a bit of like a priest renaissance right now.
Yeah,
because of how powerful Warlock is and how good the priest cards are against Warlock. Yeah, and that's kind of just what we want to talk about, is like all the different builds and ways to play control priest.
Yeah. And also the nerfs are kind of going for that too, because like not having to worry about getting rushed down by patches, not having to worry about a bone mare ruining your day, not having to worry about clearing and then they're just say, okay, well, here's my corridor creeper. Those things are things that kept control priest and even big priest down for a while. And now that those are gone, your clears are much more efficient, and they generally line up pretty well against the other decks that are in the meta. It lines up fairly well against Paladin. It lines up fairly well against Secret Mage. It can line up well against Hunter because you have an answer for the Spellstone. It's a lot of the decks that given me trouble today are a lot of the off meta decks like Quest Mage and any sort of rogue and big priest with Malygos and Velen for reasons and stuff like that. That's the stuff that gives you trouble, but the stuff that's really prevalent in the meta, this deck really lines up very well against, other than the Mirror, which is miserable.
Yeah, and like Northshire Cleric just, I think, was probably one of the most benefited cards from the nerfs. Yeah. It just lines up so well against so many openings that you no longer get punished as hard for playing a turn 1 Northshire Cleric as you used to.
Yeah. Yeah, and it actually slows down a lot of these decks too, because like Paladin, if they don't have a way to deal with it, they may take a turn where they're not developing because they don't want you to draw more cards and get to more of your answers, because the way that Paladin beats you as a control priest is by rushing you down or by building one board that you can't answer. Well, the more cards you draw, the more answers you get. So it actually kind of works in your favor to have the Northshire Cleric out on turn 1, even if it's going to get challenged, because they have to deal with it, and it slows down any damage that's going into that isn't going at your face.
Like, even if it's not getting you a card, it's like, this is 1 mana, like, kind of pseudo take an extra turn. It's just like stymie like a turn of development from them in a way. Yeah. It's like it buys you enough time to where you're fine just like tossing away a 1/3.
Yeah, it's the same thing with card. It's the same thing with Priest of the Feast too. If you're playing against Secret Mage and they're fireballing your Priest of the Feast, that's fine. It just healed you for 6. Yeah. It didn't do it through the card text, but it healed you for 6. That fireball would have been pointed at your face otherwise. So it's just a matter of just putting things down that your opponent needs to deal with, and then taking the things that bother you. And there's a few different ways to build it. I think the standard build runs Elise, and it just kind of goes for the fatigue game plan by just getting 1 million packs. And my build that I wrote a deck guide for ditches that, because I found that a lot of the time you just either don't draw the pack or you don't have room in your hand to play the pack and get any value out of it unless you're really conceding that you're going for fatigue. The original list ran Curious Glimmerroots, which I just think are just kind of filler. And so I put in Void Rippers instead, because I on Happy Hearthstone, I sang a song for Void Ripper because that was my pick, and it hasn't really come to pass. But in this deck where you're already manipulating attack and health a lot anyway, Void Ripper just becomes like such a flexible card that can do so many different things. And once you start playing with it, it's like the different ways that you can use it. Like you can use it for lethal, and that's the obvious thing. And you're running big things like Primordial Drakes that have big butts that you can butt stomp your opponent with when you flip them on the board. Or you can even like potion, use Twilight Acolyte to Potion of Madness something and kind of reverse combo the way that a combo priest would. But you also can do things like Potion of Madness and bring all their attack down to 0 and then flip them and they all die. Or you can do that to, steal something and then run it into something else. Like there was one turn, my wife watches me sometimes when I'm playing, in the evening, and I was playing as a combo priest, and she's like, "What the hell did you just do to them?" Like, like there were 3 minions on board. All of a sudden, there's like nothing. She's like, "What did you just do?" what? And she was mad because it was a combo priest and I got hit for like 36 in the face like 2 turns later. She's like, that shouldn't happen. Like you needed to be rewarded for that play. Like that was not okay.
It should happen every time. I'm fine with it. I see no issues. But
But Monicus
realistic-
likes to refer to combo priest as honorable.
It
Yeah,
is honorable
okay.
because you don't mess around with them. You're just like, okay, I have this game, you're dead. Not let's run you out of all the resources until you cry and just give up eventually because you just don't have any things anymore. I
Look,
played a
it's
bit
not
of
my-
control.
It's not my fault that they can't find the bottom right of the screen. That's
Oh
not
my
my
God.
fault. We could stop playing whenever. They're choosing to continue the game.
This is
Okay,
an
so-
immovable object meeting an unstoppable force. I will say that there is. I think that at least with Control Priest, you see the end of the game coming, as opposed to getting killed by 30 damage out of hand on turn 6. But either way,
Yeah,
I think you're
that's
both
fine. I
terrible
see no
priest
issues.
players. They're just two sides of the same priestly coin. And if you really had honor, they're the only honors among thieves, and that's why I play Preparation.
Okay, so realistically, I don't hate this deck as much as I say I do. I just had a really rough weekend where I was doing so well, and then I played against a bunch of them, and literally it was the only deck causing me problems. So I just needed to vent. It just was very annoying. I think we'll be okay. I just we'll be it's gonna be okay. And this whole like version that's like half combo, half control, this is just nonsense, okay? Look, when you shadow visions and you're looking for like a combo piece and you see a pint-sized potion, no, that's just not okay. Do you know how many times my 6-spell combo deck misses on shadow visions? It's infuriating. So I do not need to add like 4 more new spells into my deck because it like might change your warlock matchup or something, because you can like do cutesy steely void ripper stuff or whatever with it. I'm not okay with that. We just let's go pure combo or pure control, pick a side.
Monicus is all business.
But until
but let me ask
Yeah.
you this, and I'm being serious. I'm not trolling. I promise. But like in a meta, and I don't think we're there right now, but in a meta where Skulking Geist is being teched into a lot of decks, wouldn't it make sense to throw Void Rippers in as insurance against that to be able to at least still have a win condition at the end of it?
I think most people are playing Crazed Alchemist instead for the most
Okay.
part. I could definitely see Void Ripper. It does have more applications, I think. I do think that one or the other is okay, but I find a lot of my games, if I'm getting Skulking Geisted, I can often win through value anyway.
Because you're
So
playing the value-based Dragon Shell, the operatives and stuff
Yeah.
anyways.
Yeah.
and I also play a Lyra, so I mean, I'm a Lyra gamer, so a lot of times they'll Skulking Geist me and I'll just high roll an extra Divine Spirit anyway.
Hashtag Lyra gamer.
Yeah, it's
And
amazing.
this
It's
is
like
honorable. This
it's
is
like-
honorable.
Yeah, it's Auctioneer, except you don't have to worry about fatiguing. It's fantastic. I love it. Sometimes you mill yourself a little bit, but those are when the games are going really well. So
Yeah, those games where Lyra sticks for like 4 turns, and your problem is that you can't play any more minions to clear room out of your hand. Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
tough problem to have.
yeah, the best one is when you go like Lyra Radiant, and then you use your elixir that adds a 1/1 copy of Radiant to the field, and then you start getting a couple like Mind Visions and Psionic Probes, and then your hand goes from like 3 cards to the full 10, and you're like, oh no, I have too many cards now, and then yeah, it's glorious. I love
Whoops,
it.
10 cards. Oh,
Sorry,
no.
hang on. I'm sorry. I just had to finish throwing up in my mouth there a little bit.
Yeah,
So.
poor me.
What were you saying, Hat?
Poor me. I filled my hand with too many juicy priest cards. Woe is me.
And they're all so good too, and so like situationally perfect. I can't
Yeah.
tell you how many times I've gotten Shadow Word Horror against Dude Paladin on like 2 spells. It's fantastic. I love Lyra. Lyra's the best.
But you see, you could just be playing Shadow or Horror in your Control
Yeah.
Priest deck. Not have to like worry about high rolling against Dude Paladin.
Yeah, but then there's also oh man, I can't think of the name. The one that deals 1 damage to everything and lifesteal. That one's also
Spirit Lash,
fantastic.
Spirit Lash.
Yeah, Spirit Lash.
Just
Oh,
play
man.
Big Priest, which is another playable priest deck.
Yeah, you could put Malygos and Velen in it and just build another abomination. I mean, I think what we need to do is we need to find a way to fuse the combo hybrid and the Big Priest with Velen and make that into one just disgusting, awful deck that will just blow up everything and cause the robot apocalypse.
All right, so we're
Malygos
combo
is very
priest
good when you flip the
with-
butt.
We're big combo priest with Lyra and Priest of the Feast in it. Because I've
Yes.
seen some wild versions of Big Priest that have Priest of the Feast in them. It's like really weird. So
Yeah, I
It's
don't understand
questionable.
that.
yeah, very questionable.
Well,
but-
and if you Barnes out a Malygos and then silence it, then you get a fast 4/12, and then you double the butt and hit them with it.
Yeah,
I love this. I love everything.
easy
about
game,
this.
easy life.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, Priest right now feels a lot like Warrior from
Yeah.
like a couple of years ago.
from the
whenever it just
Whispers
had,
meta.
like,
Yeah, when it had like
7
6
or
good
8
decks.
playable different decks,
Yeah.
like that were
Yeah.
all really good. That's how it feels. I think
and
the-
you don't even know which one you're playing against until like 5 or 6 turns in because it's almost like when aggro and mid-range shaman were both around at the same time and like you didn't know which one was what you were actually playing against until they burned you in the face or dropped a whatever the totem inspired dude. I forget what his name is now. The whatever.
Thunderbolt Valiant.
Thank you. Yeah, until they dropped that, like you didn't really know which one you were playing against. That's what it's like because
Yeah,
everything's playing Dustbreakers, everything's playing Draconid operatives. It's like except for Big Priest, where if they just sit around for 6 turns, then it's probably Big Priest. But other than that, they all look exactly the same in the beginning.
Yeah, I think the only one right now that's like that's definitely a tier below the other ones, surprisingly, because we had an episode on this like a little while ago, is actually the Spiteful deck.
Yeah.
which is starting to come back, which I find
and-
really weird.
Well,
Because I know
the
Cream Puff was
only reason
playing
that
it
Spiteful
like,
isn't
pretty
great
high.
is because Paladin straight up farms it. Like
Yeah.
Paladin just wrecks all of the Spiteful decks.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
like
So if
when-
this
when
is
those
keeping that
start to
down,
fade
then-
out of popularity, then Spiteful will come back and it'll be really good.
But
Yeah.
we're getting to the
And-
point where like we're getting rewarded for playing greedier decks because all these slow priest and slow warlock decks, you want to be the quest mage, you want to be the quester or Kingsbane mill/non-mill rogue. You want to
Nobody
be,
wants to be that.
Do
As-
you guys hear that? I hear sirens. That's the sound of the fun police coming.
as-
That
but,
means secret mage.
but like but to be fair, Appa, you know what else is really good against these priest decks, and I've seen this multiple times, is murmuring, rummaging Jade Shaman. Is
Yeah.
very, very good against control priest.
But it's not that great against control warlock though, which is kind of the
No.
issue there.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem.
just
I
like
mean-
Jade Druid. Like I think Jade Druid's probably pretty good against the control priest unless they get an early skulking geist off.
Yeah, that's like the issue with this meta is like you want to be good against one of them, but then you like pick
Yeah.
one that like farms one of them and then you just like lose to the other one.
Yeah, you like
It's like,
beat
well-
control priest, but you get crushed by combo priest as Jade Druid.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and it's the shaman, like you have to have your hexes in the beginning because if you let one of those, if you let one of the void lords come back, like you can't evolve it. That's just creating a different problem. Now you have 2 problems. Like
I have
That's-
devolved a Void Lord into an Ironbark Protector and immediately conceded because I
Yeah.
could not take 8 from that.
that's still
I've
better than a Lich King, but yeah.
I've devolved one into a Tyrion.
Oh,
And
gosh.
I also conceded that game.
It's like devolve. I don't think this card name is correct.
Yeah.
That went up the
Yeah.
evolutionary chain.
Yeah.
It's and looking at the live Data Reaper report right now, the top 5 decks in the meta and the only one that are above 50% at all ranks are in order: Dude Paladin, Murloc Paladin, Secret Mage, Spell Hunter, Control Warlock. So, and number 6 is Jade Druid. So it's really interesting
Wow.
to see how the priest decks are kind of now being preyed upon because
Yeah.
there's so many of them. But a lot of these strategies are just good against all of them. In particular, Appa, you're right, Secret Mage is really, really good against all of these priests, even Spiteful.
If you do play Secret Mage, though, do not expect to beat Paladin. If Uther queues up against you, you're gonna have a bad day most of the time.
And even Secret Mage, like you need to have Alaneth on curve in order to win. Like
Yeah.
when I lose to Secret Mage, it's because they got Alaneth early. Because otherwise, like I can just sit there, and I have minions that can take an explosive runes, and it's not a problem. You have small spells that you can use to set up a counter spell to make sure that you're going to be getting what you need. You're running Priest of the Feast, or you're running Greater Healing Potion, so you can heal up out of range. It's really if they just have so much burn that you can't recover from it, that's when you start getting hit by it. But that's like 40% of the time with Secret Mage that you're going to have Eleneth that early. And otherwise, it's pretty easy to just kind of outlast them, and then or let them go into fatigue if they get it a little bit too
Yeah,
late.
a lot of it too will depend on if you have the coin or not as the priest. Because if you don't have the coin, it gets significantly harder because
Yeah,
you don't
that's
have
true.
the free counterspell check.
Yeah, but you have plenty of targets for Potion of Madness that you can use to test for counterspell too.
Yeah.
Well, folks, I don't mean to interrupt a lovely conversation, but the thing about having this particular composition of hosts is that there's never gonna stop being lovely conversation. So the only question I have left for all of us,
How long can this go on?
and as of the time of this recording, about 2 hours, so geez Louise, I think it's probably time for us to start thinking about wrapping up. So we want to give thanks to a bunch of people involved with the show's creation here. We want to make sure we talk about Stefan L. He let us use his cover. Thank you so much, Stefan. Check him out in his channel linked in our show notes. Big thanks to Hearthstone Top Decks, Beer Brick for Deckless, Hearthstone Tournaments on YouTube with a lowercase t. Yes, they are different channels for tournament VODs. Big thanks to Hearthpone for their tournament survival guides and their deck analysis bits. Show notes for this week's episode are on our website, coinconcede.com. You can support our show at patreon.com/coinconcede. Join us every week live at twitch.tv/coinconcedepodcast. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. Write into our email at coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at coinconcede. If you like, follow, and share us on Facebook at facebook.com/coinconcede. If you'd like some CC swag, head over to shop.coinconcede.com. And big thanks to our producers, Calum, Viriatus, and
It's so fluffy!
our buddy Fluffy. I'm going to go first on our coin concedes this week because, oh my god, this community. So for those of you that may not know, one of our patrons, Cap Correlator, his family was involved in a car accident this past week. Everyone is okay, but the car was completely totaled. So we decided as a show we're going to take our Patreon profits after costs and throw them towards a GoFundMe. And the community raised $1,000 in 24 hours, which is absolutely unbelievable. So we are blown away by the generosity and cohesion within this community. I want to say thank you so much to everyone involved. I had to bump the goal up while we were on the podcast because we were out of room to raise money. So it's really incredible to see what you've all been able to do when you come together and help out another community member in need. So thank you so much for being who you are. Bodikus, why don't you tell us who your coin conceit is?
My shout out is to Andrew is living. He just posted our So You Think You Can Cast video. I appreciate him working on that with me. I had a blast recording it with him, and all around great dude. Make sure you check him out on the Happy Hearthstone, which if you're listening to this and you're not listening to the Happy Hearthstone, what are you doing? That's it.
Yep. Appa, how about you?
I wanted to thank Cinder because he made my Twitch emote, which is now live for subs on my Twitch channel, which I'll plug in a second. But my emote's awesome and I love it.
And our friend Wickedwood, what about you?
So I want to give a shout out to Ferris Biscuit and to you, Vodicus, for bringing me in to do the UHL casting a couple weekends ago. I had a really good time. It sounded like everybody really enjoyed it, and I was really appreciative of both of you for giving me a shot on that. So it was a lot of fun, and I was really happy to be part of it. So and I also want to give a shout out to Samurai Flea, who's the other admin over in the Velens Discord, because he's been kind of my control priest Padawan the past couple of weeks, and he's been doing really well with the deck too. And he's a really, really great guy, and it's been a pleasure to admin that community with him. So I just want to give him a shout out as well.
Yay! Shout outs.
Yay.
We are calling these coin concedes though. So just be aware.
Oh, sorry.
We're on brand. Yeah, no, it's okay.
The coin concede shout out, coin concede something.
But it's
yeah.
Bodikus set a bad example. It's fine.
as usual. So it's fine.
Ah, rude. That was a drive-by. Jeez. All right.
Oh,
Well,
he knows I love him, just like I love all you guys. So.
aw. Well, thanks, buddy. Where can we find you when you're not on a podcast?
So you can find me on Twitter usually at Wickedgood on Twitter. You can find me on Twitch at WickedGoodFM. I've been travel's kind of got in the way of my streaming schedule, but I'm hoping to get back to it hopefully this weekend. We will see. I do a weekly show Off Curve, which hopefully I'll be recording tomorrow. You can find that at offcurve.com, or you can find the Twitter account for that at offcurve, and that's also where you can find the deck guide for Control Priest, and it's pretty long, and it goes into one of the good parts of ADD is that I got hyper focus, and then I just churn out like 5,000 words on a plane ride. So you can go be the beneficiary of all of that. And if you go into pretty much any Discord and speak my name, much like Ridiculous Hat, I will appear from the darkness and tell you to calm down and take a break from ladder until tomorrow.
Yes. It's a service he offers freely. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Wicked Good. Bodicus, where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter at BodicusHS, Twitch, twitch.tv/Bodicus.
Appa.
I'm on Twitter, Appa_HS, and on Twitch at AppaHS. And y'all should come swing by, possibly sub, get access to this dank emote. I'm pretty sure I emailed Hat also, and he should be putting it in the Discord too, which will be awesome.
You did, and I will. And you can find me podcasting. You can find me on Twitter at Ridiculous Hat. You can find me on Twitch on Thursday nights at twitch.tv/Ridiculous Hat, working on getting a second night. And you can find me in any Hearthstone Discord at my name, and I will appear. You can find Cora casting Hearthstone. She's also at songbird_HS or twitch.tv/songbird. Cora. Kenny is KCCO_gamer on Twitter and Twitch. And that is it for us today on the Coin Concede podcast. Yes, it's finally over. Keep calm and rogue on. And if you see us on the ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede.
Take cold comfort in your victory. You win. I can rest now. You win. For now. Now, your victory proves nothing.
The day is yours.
I choose death. You have triumphed. This time, this hunt is yours.
So I know that went on way too
Whoa.
long. I'm gonna say